Good morning. Just when you think there's no news, there's always news to report. Well, I wouldn't want to be associated with the Republican Party. No way. If they're not taking their marching orders from the lobbyists or the PACs, it now turns out they're taking their marching orders directly from the Heritage Foundation. It's a pity because they're writing the voter suppression laws in all the states. Just like the lobbyists used to write legislation. And guess who that benefited? Not we the people. No way. It benefited the corporations big time. Joe Manchin, he's still looking for bipartisan rapport. It's not happening, as he just found out when he made a significant compromise on S1, the Voting Rights Act, and he went to John Cornyn to get support. He was turned down flat, folks. There's no bipartisanship here. The Republican Party is a unilateral party, gets its marching orders from Trump, maybe the NRA still if they've got some clout, and directly from Heritage. Heritage puts in all the protests, funds all the voter suppression laws, and tries to make sure that they're enacted. And they've been pretty successful. There are about 5 states that have done it so far, and there are more to come. They don't have the people's interest at heart. They have one thing in common: power. Power for themselves, government that gives nothing to the people. I read an article by Ken Olson that supports Tom Cotton's idea for taxing foundations that have over $2.5 billion. Well, that's an interesting concept. I too have looked at endowments to Harvard and said to myself, gee, with $38 billion, $1 billion could fund 22,000 students at $50,000 each. Easily, we could have free tuition in a lot of the Ivies. However, it's not a bad idea, but then it should go for all foundations, all NGOs, all PAC money, and all of that PAC money should be transparent to we the people, so that when pension funds invest, they know who's funding what and for whom. Because a lot of these think tanks can also take money from foreign powers. And I'd like to know who's sponsoring the Heritage Foundation and all of these little teeny PACs that are attached to it. Since they're writing the laws against we the people, I want to know who is the person who's funding them the most, because they're taking this PAC to donors, and donors are funding the effort against we the people. Good thing we're not so dumb. When they say there's a labor shortage, there's no labor shortage. Workers in the fields, workers who build, workers who are in the restaurant industry, they no longer want to work to be abused. They've had it since COVID. Do they need money to survive? You bet. They need money. Draconian governments in the GOP that are led by the GOP, what are they doing? They're cutting their benefits in the hopes that they'll get these people back to work because they know they need funds. This is a good time for everyone in the restaurant business to organize. It's a good time for Biden to change the rules of the NLRB and give workers a clean slate. Let them be involved in negotiations. Let them be involved in the workplace and how the workplace functions, and involved in their communities. That would be a good thing, and give them a pay raise with dignity and benefits. What we're seeing, obviously, according to the marketplace, is temporary inflation, temporary supply chain blips, and they'll be overcome. But it's not going to happen overnight unless Biden's plans for families are passed, the infrastructure laws are passed, the voting rights bill S1 is passed, and now Manchin has no excuse because he's got no one to talk to. They've ousted Liz Cheney. She thinks she's going to form another GOP. They're better off, folks, if people really care about the country, to start an independent party, not associated with either one, and attract people who really want to see change in America so that we can indeed build back better. Saw what happened when you had the Colonial Pipeline shut down. Ransomware is everywhere. The biggest corporations are being targeted. We think it may be Russia, but it could be other bad actors as well. No matter, all critical infrastructure requires dedicated IT personnel. Corporations don't like to hear that because that means you got to pay people decent wages, and they got to have a staff, and they got to monitor your systems full time, and probably come up with a way to be flexible. Well, if individuals have to be flexible, and we sure do, to live in this environment and understand the rules and regulations that are constantly changing, I think corporations who are people can do the same. Can't be a monolithic group. Cannot be one pipeline that services the entire East Coast and part of the South. We got to have alternate energy. We need ways to decouple parts of the energy system. We need backups, and we need flexibility. Goes for transportation, goes for any communications. This country needs security. The way to have it is to employ professional IT. It's gotta be. Does that mean eventually you'll have inflation? You might. But should ordinary Americans care? I don't think so. If there's inflation, that means we'll be able to put our money in the bank and get a decent rate of return. And corporations will adjust. If we're making money and they're making money, there's ways then to put the brakes on inflation if production is not outpacing it. My bet, production, when people are paid more and get benefits and get childcare and get better education and get apprenticeships, they'll outpace the inflation. We won't have to worry. Low-hanging fruit for taxing? Hey, there's lots. You could even go with my derivative suggestion. 6 cents on every $100 of transaction. We'd have $1 trillion. Let's not look at what's small or what we think may hurt one entity overall. It ain't gonna work. Let's go for the low-hanging fruit, the hedge funds, the folks with the carried interests. Income, make it income. Reduce how much money is passed tax-free to the next generation. There's a lot to do. Pass my derivatives. And that will not affect anyone, really. It'll just make our trading lives a hell of a lot safer. So don't be scared. And oh, one more thing with the mask advice, which sounds a little crazy. It only means that those of us who are congregating with other folks who have already been vaccinated don't have to worry. We still have to worry if anyone is in our proximity and hasn't been vaccinated. So until everyone's vaccinated, I don't know anyone in my group that's taking off their mask in an enclosed space. We don't even do it in Central Park. So there's no mystery. It means everyone's got to be vaccinated and then you can be safe. Well, that's what it's been all along. We want everyone vaccinated. And then we have herd immunity. And then we don't have to worry about returning to normal. So there's a lot to think about. It's the same old stuff. If the Democrats are on the ball, they'll pass all these bills now and not wait until July, the 11th hour. Give people the relief they need. You're not talking with a party that wants to work with you. I don't know how long it's going to take for them to understand it, but that's the reality. It's not woulda, shoulda, coulda, it's what is. And what is a party that wants its own rules, its own regulations, and its own way. We don't have to deal with bullies. We've got an American party that's come up with good ideas. Let's pass them and do it any way you can. Give the people the stimulus they need. Thank you for listening. I'm glad the people have awoke and know what's going on and what dirty tricks are out there to make us think that others are in favor of voter suppression. It's just the same old stuff from before, trying to make us think that the other guy's to blame for our misery when it's coming out of one party, the Republican Party, that does not represent we the people. Make no mistake, there are other decent folks out there, but they're not part of this Republican Party. So take care, everyone. See you next week. You can bet on it. Thank you.